Okay, we are back, and we have our first guest. Andrea's over here. I think she wants to put the microphone down and get into some of the goodies here. But
Oh yeah.
welcome. We have Maeve and Bernard from Sugar and Scribe Bakery. Welcome.
Hi. Well,
So,
actually, Chef Bernard's from the Marine Room, the Shores. He's
wow.
got a lot of them. I'm just a little guy.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's start out with Sugar and Scribe, and tell us a little bit about your company and what do you do, and let's find out a little bit more.
Okay. So my name is Maeve Rochford. I am the executive chef and owner of Sugar and Scribe Bakery in Pacific Beach, and our focus is definitely Irish and English and Scottish heritage baking. But baking doesn't necessarily mean sweet. It means anything from meat pie to stew to cupcakes to cookies.
Wow.
We kind of cross the board, but we do offer certain pieces of French fare, certain pieces of American fare. We hit on little notches across the board, but we're mainly a scratch bakery. Everything is made by hand, start to finish within our bakery, as well as we do offer some imported goods.
So, not only do you deal with food on a healthy basis, but you also deal with a quality basis. So, if somebody wants to do more than what they get at their corner bakery, they come to you.
Well, that's certainly our hope. The corner bakery, unfortunately, has become Ralph's and Vons and Costco, and that's not really food in my book. Period. I think that people sometimes you hear them talk about going to fine dining restaurants and I spent so much, or my custom cake costs $60 to $80. It's not that it costs that much; it's that it's worth that much.
Right. So it's a value-based proposition then.
Absolutely.
So, and
Well, and I think it's interesting, Barry, that you mentioned healthy. But I think there's a misconception that eating cake is like the worst thing that you could do. Everybody who knows me knows my passion for cake and for all things sweet. But if you think about what's in a cake, it's fresh, wholesome ingredients, right, Maeve? I mean, there's butter in there and eggs.
I think if you're eating things that your body understands how to use it, how to break it down, you can certainly actually eat more. And at least when you're at the gym and you're sweating it out, you can go back and think about how great that cookie was.
Right.
You can imagine that chocolate chip falling off your lips.
Yeah. And yeah. Dang, it's worth it if it's quality. And I believe that I don't believe in good foods or bad foods. I believe that you can work anything into your diet as long as it's in moderation, and that if it's good quality. And so to me, a perfect day is to go and eat some scones, which you also make such phenomenal scones, as well as, your cupcakes, and then go to, get a good workout in, and then go visit Chef Bernard at the Marine Room.
That's it.
Which is another one of my favorite places in La Jolla.
Well, I kind of think of Chef Bernard as like actually one of my angels now. That's what he's referred to when I leave for lunch.
A fabulous French angel.
Yeah,
there you go.
And I made him a cake that looked like angels flying.
It was so beautiful. It was amazing. She said, "I'm gonna bake you a little cake," and you have that cake weighed about like 3 pounds. And I got this is it's one person, but it was so beautiful.
Wow.
It was so beautiful.
I think that what happens to like a lot of little guys like me is that we are great chefs, but we're not necessarily great chef business owners. And so I think that we get gobbled up because we spend the money on the butter and we don't know how to do all the costing correctly, and we don't know how to do all the laboring correctly. And Chef Bernard has immensely affected not only the bottom line in terms of dollars and cents, but like emotionally, he has made my life so much better.
How did you get so lucky as to have one of the best in San Diego become your mentor?
To be honest with you, I thought at first he was being nice. We met at
You thought it was like his philanthropy project?
I did. I came back and I was telling the girls, I was like, "You'll never believe who I talked to today." And one of my other girls was like, "No way." And I was like, "I know, Amanda, Chef Bernard."
I know,
like,
crazy,
he's everywhere.
right?
And I said, he goes, "Well, he said that he would help me and we could go to lunch and have tea." And she was like, "What are you going to do?" I was like, "I'm going to totally write him and we'll see." And he responded within like an hour, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And then I got really nervous.
Right.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, because he's like a celebrity, and not just because you look like Armand Asante. I mean, how many times have you heard that? Be honest, you've heard that before, have you not?
No, first time right now, and I really appreciate it. But I have to tell you, it's very true. It's very important to make sure that you have a good business module to make sure that you will be very successful, because we work 10, 12 hours a day. And at the end of the day, you need to make sure that you are showing some good profit. To make sure that this happens, you have to understand all the mechanism that it takes. So it's from your payroll, from payroll labor and everything. And when it comes to also your costing. So you have food costs. Food costs really fluctuate big time from day to day, I would say, due to the fact that pricing are always moving around. So it's just that attention to detail and really keep it simple. If it's too complicated, it will not work. If it's really nice, structured, simple, then everybody has a buy-in and everyone is very successful.
Well, you're listening to Close Up on San Diego Business here on KFSD AM 1450 and financialnewsandtalk.com. I'm your host, Barry Waxler, here with my co-hosts Andrea Kay and Al Arias, and our guests, Maeve from Sugar and Scribe Bakery, and Bernard from the Marine Room. So, one of the things that you mentioned that I think is a key from what we talked about off air is the attention to detail. Okay, and that's got to be a huge difference between essentially your average bakery versus Sugar and Scribe. Tell us a little bit more about how you craft ingredients for your baking.
Well, I think for me, I had to have like a vision of like how I wanted my food to not only taste, but how I wanted it to emotionally affect you.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of thought of myself as Mary Poppins meets Willy Wonka. I want to be a little off, but I want it to feel like home. I want it to feel like something that maybe possibly you could make or your grandmother could have made. I don't want it to be so far away that it's untouchable. And so I started with the basics, the foundations of good baking. And then I tried to craft memories into my food. So when I'm making the banana bread, I remember watching my grandmother pull out black frozen bananas and thinking, there's just no way I'm eating that. And then you'd smell the bread. And well, maybe I'll sniff it.
Right.
And then you see it on the plate and you're like, well, maybe those black bananas aren't so bad. And so I think that's when people come in and they try the banana bread. I know you're trying something that I grew up on. There's an emotional feeling to that. And I've had other people say things like, this cupcake tastes just like the one my grandmother used to make. Well, that's because when your grandmother was shopping, there was no shenanigans at the store to choose from. She had to buy fresh flour. She had to buy butter. Some of these things now out of a box is not real. There's no emotion in it.
Yeah, that reminds me. My grandmother used to make all these wonderful cookies, and she'd sell them to the bakeries. That's where the bakers would get them back in the day.
Yeah.
So that's great. So all of your everything is all natural. I can see from what's in front of me that the artistry that goes into this is incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of like we had with Dahlman's Fine Chocolates. Everything's hand painted and everything.
Well, yeah, and like Dahlman's, you have a really interesting family story. You're not behind.
Oh, I know. I'm one illicit affair away from being royalty. So close.
Right.
Graham's really dropped the ball.
Well, I just mean in terms of a family history of cooking and putting that love and into
my
baked goods.
grandmother was the one of the chefs for the barrister of George V.
Wow.
And I know she should have tried harder.
Yeah.
And then she came back to Ireland, and my mother's oldest of 9. And when there's 9 kids and you're in rural Ireland, you definitely have to be a good cook. And you have to work with literally from the land. And so I grew up spending my summers with grandmother cooking, and my mother wanted to spend her time with me in the kitchen, and I fell in love with food. And for me, food is a privilege.
Yeah.
It's
and it does
really awesome.
bring up so much emotion, as the listeners probably could even feel oozing through me of the microphone as I see what you brought in. But question for you, Irish butter, is it true that it's so much better than like regular butter? Is that one reason why your stuff's so good?
So
no offense to the French.
No. Actually, I think
Chef Bernard.
Chef Bernard is actually going to be able to back me up on this one. The cows eat the grass that comes from the soil. What they eat will affect the taste of the milk, will affect the taste of cheese. Why is French cheese the best? Because of the cows that are in France that they milk. The Irish butter the cattle that we have and the way it goes from the soil to the grass through them to producing the butter, it definitely makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Not all butter, not all cheese are alike.
No, absolutely not.
And you have a different water content also in the butter, in the solid itself. So it makes it a little bit richer, and the flavor is really, really amazing. Same thing in Brittany. I'm from Brittany, and we have exactly the same recipe, I would say. I have an uncle who was a farmer, and they would move the cattle from parcel to parcels during the year, and the butter would taste different during the year
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's but you guys both bring more than just great technique and the use of good ingredients. You also have to make some difficult selections in terms of what you're going to present to people. I mean, how do you get inside the minds of people and say, okay, I think this is what people are going to want to, eat in today's, culture? How do you pick what you're going to, market
Well,
and sell?
some of it is based on what I can get my hands on that's really great. If the blackberries are just bananas and fat and bursting, I'm going to serve things with blackberries. But also I think that I try to see what's going around in the world, what's happening outside of California, and then how can
There's something outside California.
I know.
People here in San Diego would
Pacific
disagree.
Beach can be a little challenging at times, and I'm like, there's other parts.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about San Diego is really amazing is we have amazing farmers market, and our farming community is unbelievable. So as chefs and bakers and people in our industry, it's very important that we continue to source locals. Like this, we can support our farming community itself. And the stronger the farming community is, the stronger the restaurants are, and that we are able to really create amazing ingredients. But truthfully, the best cuisine and the best baking, it's in season. You have to work with seasonal ingredients,
Well,
and you have to invest into your ingredients, and you will have amazing product.
Yeah. So do not go buy some blueberry muffin mix off the shelf, right, Maeve?
No, definitely not. That's why on our label, I actually wrote no frozen blueberries. Because people sometimes say, why is a muffin worth $3? Oh, but it is, because my blueberries are big, fat blueberries.
Right.
Floating amongst goodness.
And they're real.
But this is also how, when I was writing to you and I was saying, like, it's so important for any industry to find a really great mentor, because I knew of something that I really wanted and I had no idea how to get to it. But Chef Bernard told me, hey, specialty produce, they carry that. So now I can get my hands on it. So now I can give you a more delicious cake than you had before.
Thank you, Chef
Well,
Bernard,
you're
from
welcome.
my heart.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we're starting to run a little bit short on time. Before we go, Maeve, tell our listeners, how do they find Sugar and Scribe?
The easiest way is to drive down the Garnett and look for Goodwill.
Okay.
Because they have the biggest sign and we're right next door.
Right next to Goodwill on Garnett in Pacific Beach. Okay. What about a phone number or a website?
We are 858-274-1733 or sugarandscribe.com.
Okay. Well, just from the look in Andrea's eyes today, I highly recommend everybody contact Sugar and Scribe for all their baking needs. And Maeve, Bernard, thanks for being with us today.
Pleasure.
Great. So you're listening to Close Up on San Diego Business, where we get up close and personal with homegrown San Diego businesses and the people that are working hard to make a difference in our community. This is financialnewsandtalk.com. I'm your host, Barry Waxler. We'll be right back after the break with more homegrown business Close Up. And we'll go to the other side of the community with Armand and her core connection and
Where you got to go after
where
you
yeah.
go to Sugar and
That's
Scribe.
right.
Yeah. So great.
All right.
Well, we'll be back right back after the break.